Welcome everybody. I'd like to introduce you to a colleague of mine, Richard Westley, who's our Director of International Business. Like many of us at IDG, he also is a former Army officer, and I've asked him today to come and talk to us a little bit about military models and how they translate really well into the civilian world, particularly at times like this when we're in a crisis. Richard, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Johanne. Yeah, I thought probably start by reminding or explaining to people that the British Army's command philosophy is called mission command. In real life, it means empowering people. And in real terms, it's about furnishing our subordinates, our first line and second line workers, with what we want them to do and why we like them to do it, and not the how. Because if they know the leader's intentions and intent, i.e. the what and the why, then they can decide on the how. And we want them to think. And I think part of that process of defining the how is really using the estimate and what we call mission analysis. So once you've been given your mission, your vision and objectives, then we've got a 4-stage analysis tool, which I used in the military and I use almost every day in business. And that's really mission analysis.
So you said it's a 4-stage process. Can you take us through that?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So the first thing about mission analysis, it does rely on you being given a mission. So we always start by stating the mission or the objective or the goal that you've been given by your boss. And then we ask ourselves, a series of questions. The first question, really very important, what is my boss's intention? What does she or he want, and what looks good? And I always try to look 1 level up, and if possible, 2 levels up, because you need to understand, for me, quite clearly what both levels above you see as the overall intent and goal, so that you can nest your plan within it.
I see.
Having done that, we then look at the second question. And you ask yourself, okay, they've given me the mission. What's my part in their plan? And I always split that into 2. Firstly, the specified task. What has he actually told me that he or she wants me to do? And then looking at that, start to list the tasks that come out and fall out of that I, using my intuition, can work out. I call those the implied tasks.
Okay, what comes next?
Thereafter, we need to look at how much freedom we've got to operate and any constraints that I can work out or that are imposed upon me. It may be time, it may be resource. What constraints, but more importantly, what freedoms do I have? And at each one, ask yourself the question, so what? So what? What does that mean? Because other tasks or clarifications will fall out of that third question.
Okay.
And then the fourth question really is, has the situation changed? And 9 times out of 10 at this stage, the situation hasn't changed. But most importantly, might that situation change? What are the what ifs? So what contingencies do I need to manage? And that's something that one has to work through right from the get-go. Contingency planning needs to start from the outset, not once problems start occurring.
Okay, so I was going to ask you to give us an example of how that applied in your operational world in the military. But just by way of a summary, could you take us through that and give us your view on how that might apply now to our civilian colleagues in light of the corona situation?
Yeah, well, I would imagine that they're already working to a series of objectives and goals, and one would hope that people had worked out what their first line and probably the board require of them. They should have identified their specified tasks and implied tasks, and they should know what constraints and freedoms have been imposed upon them, or what freedoms they have. And of course, then they've got the big question 4. And the important thing about coronavirus is it came upon us very, very quickly. Brexit was always an iterative process, a lengthy process, and people had quite a bit of time to plan against the contingencies required there. The coronavirus, of course, came fast and furious, but there was still time as it was building for people to do contingency planning. And the important thing I think about contingency planning is you can't plan against every contingency and every outcome. It's physically not possible. But what you can do is focus your contingency planning on the worst case and the most likely case. Yeah. Because if you've got a plan, or more importantly, you've been planning against the worst case and the most likely case, then anything that happens in between, you should be able to tweak and to cater for it. So everything in mission analysis from the get-go through coronavirus and indeed Brexit and other challenges that are sent our way, can be covered in terms of contingency planning.
Okay. So could you tell us how that applied to you when you deployed to Garajda?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the key tenets of mission command is that you have to be given a mission. And I'm going to choose an extreme example because we weren't given a mission, which is unforgivable, actually. We were simply told, go to Garajda. 6 months later, we were told, you need to leave Garajda. And the reason I choose this is because this is the most extreme example, as I said. And not being given a mission simply wasn't good enough. We weren't prepared to do that to our soldiers. So we had a conversation with our commander 2 up, General Rupert Smith in Sarajevo. And we said, OK, we're going to do this. But what do you want us to do? What's your intent? And he said, I want you to safeguard the civil population as best you can in a war. That's not a mission, but it is a why. And we decided that we had enough ability and experience to actually decide on the what based on the resource we had. And so we formed the mission that you see on the slide there. And there's 4 tasks. It doesn't really matter in the context of this talk what those tasks were, except that they were achievable. And we had the resource to do them at a push. But the key thing was the in order to, the unifying purpose in that white box beneath, safeguarding the civil population as best we could in a war. And it allowed us to create our own mission, to analyse it, and then to disseminate it to all of our soldiers. And I'll just labour on the point of contingency planning there, because we applied question 4 on the contingency planning right from the outset, and we worked plans up against the worst case and the most likely case. And the point about this mission and mission analysis is it's an iterative process. And I would say that mission changed 4 times in 6 months as various challenges came our way. And having gone from peacekeeping to war fighting in 6 months, our contingency planning paid off. What I would say is that the one thing that didn't change throughout the tour was that in order to, that why that General Rupert had given us, safeguarding the civil population as best we can in a war.
Yeah. So that provides like an anchor, doesn't it? The ultimate purpose, as depending on what happens, what changes, what we get, what we have to do without, as long as we've got that focus, that anchor point on why we're here and what we're trying to do.
That's absolutely right. And there will be challenges that come in from left, from right, ahead of you, and you've got to have the capacity and the ability to be able to guard those off, deal with them like we will deal with coronavirus, and then as soon as possible get back onto your main effort, get onto your aim, and apply resource to it. So that's the flexibility I think that mission analysis brings to the party here, and that's why I've adopted it, having gone into business in the last 11 or 12 years, because it's tried and tested for me. It forces me to think through the likely outcomes and plan against the worst case and the most likely case.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for sharing that story with us. Thank you for taking us through the model, which is nice and simple and applicable. And I think when we all feel a bit adrift, if we can revert back to a little bit of process to just help anchor us and focus on us and keep our people with us, we can always work out the how if we keep our cool head.
That's absolutely right. Good luck, everyone.
For more information on how we can help your business during these unprecedented times, contact us by visiting our website, www.inspirationaldevelopment.com, or email us on info@inspirationaldg.com. From short digital masterclasses to full turnkey digital development solutions, we're here to support you.